welcome. Today we're talking about a powerful moment, the moment people finally realize they misunderstood you completely. The moment when the person they once overlooked quietly becomes the one they can no longer ignore. There comes a time when the truth stops hiding. No announcements, no loud entrance, just a shift in energy so strong that everyone in the room feels it. And suddenly, the same people who once felt comfortable judging you begin to hesitate. Their confidence pauses. Their certainty cracks. They thought they understood you. They believed they had already measured your limits, predicted your moves, and placed you neatly inside a small mental box. To them, you were simple, easy to read, easy to dismiss. But assumptions are fragile things. And when reality finally appears, those assumptions fall apart fast. Right now, they're starting to see what was always there, the strength you carried quietly, the patience they mistook for weakness, the silence they confused with uncertainty. Every moment they ignored, every effort they overlooked, every quiet step you took is beginning to make sense to them in a way that feels almost unsettling. You didn't suddenly change. That's the truth. You simply stopped hiding your full presence. And that realization hits people harder than any argument ever could. For a long time, you were underestimated. Maybe people spoke over you. Maybe they doubted your abilities or treated your dreams like passing thoughts. They convinced themselves that your calm nature meant you lacked power, that your restraint meant hesitation. But calm is not emptiness. Silence is not surrender. Sometimes silence is preparation. While others were busy talking, you were observing. While they rushed forward chasing attention, you were building something deeper, understanding, discipline, clarity. Step by step, you grew stronger in ways that couldn't be seen from the outside. And now the results are impossible to ignore. You can feel the shift, can't you? The way conversations change when you enter a space. The way people watch more carefully. The pauses before they speak. The subtle tension that wasn't there before. It's not fear in the dramatic sense. It's uncertainty. They no longer know where they stand with you. And uncertainty makes people nervous. Because people feel safe when they believe they understand someone. Predictability gives them comfort. But the moment you become unpredictable, not chaotic, just deeper than expected, their confidence disappears. They start replaying memories in their minds. Did we underestimate them? Were they always capable of this? How did we miss it? And the answer is simple: they weren't looking closely enough. You never needed to prove yourself loudly. Growth doesn't always announce itself. Real change happens quietly, beneath the surface, where no applause exists, like roots growing underground before a tree ever rises into view. Now the tree is visible, and people are realizing they misjudged the seed. What makes this moment powerful is that you didn't force it. You didn't argue your worth into existence. You didn't chase validation or beg for recognition. You allowed time, effort, and consistency to speak for you. That kind of strength feels different. It doesn't demand attention, it naturally commands it. Notice how reactions change. The same people who once offered advice now listen more carefully. The same voices that doubted now choose their words with caution. Not because you threaten them, but because your presence carries certainty, and certainty is powerful. You stand there calmly, not needing revenge, not needing loud victories. Just being fully yourself is enough to reshape the atmosphere around you. That's the part many people never understand. True confidence doesn't arrive with noise. It arrives with stillness. When you know who you are, you stop trying to convince others. You stop shrinking to fit expectations. You stop explaining your worth to people determined not to see it. Instead, you let reality reveal itself naturally. And that's exactly what is happening now. The energy in the room changes because people sense authenticity. They recognize that the version of you they dismissed was never the full story. They're witnessing depth they didn't prepare for. Patience turned into precision. Quiet observation turned into wisdom. You didn't become someone new. You became visible. And visibility changes everything. Some will admire it. Some will feel inspired. Others may feel uncomfortable. Because your growth quietly challenges the story they told themselves about you, and maybe even about themselves. But this moment isn't about proving anyone wrong. It's about standing firmly in your truth without apology. So take a breath and notice the calm inside you. Notice how different it feels when you no longer carry the weight of being misunderstood. The opinions that once felt heavy now seem distant, almost irrelevant. Because the strongest transformation isn't when others finally understand you. It's when you no longer need them to. This is only the beginning of that realization, the moment where perception shifts, where silence turns into presence, and where the underestimated person quietly steps into undeniable strength. And whether they admit it or not, they see you now. Something interesting happens after people finally recognize your true strength. The atmosphere doesn't explode into drama. Instead, it becomes strangely quiet. Conversations slow down. Eyes linger a little longer. There's a carefulness in how others respond to you now. It's subtle, but unmistakable. The same people who once felt completely comfortable around you are suddenly more aware of your presence. They measure their words, they rethink their assumptions. And deep inside, they're trying to understand how the person they underestimated became someone they now take seriously. What they don't realize is that the change didn't happen overnight. You were evolving long before anyone noticed. While others focused on appearances, you were focused on growth. While they chased quick recognition, you were building stability. Every setback you faced quietly shaped your mindset. Every moment of doubt became training for patience. Every time you were overlooked, you learned how to rely on yourself instead of approval. And now that inner work is visible, people often become uneasy when their old judgments collapse. It forces them to confront something uncomfortable, the possibility that they were wrong. And admitting that, even silently, can shake a person's confidence, so they watch you more closely. They try to predict your next move again, but this time it's harder. You don't react the way you used to. You don't seek validation the way they expected. Your calm feels intentional, not uncertain. Your silence feels powerful, not empty. You've become difficult to define, and what cannot be easily defined often makes people nervous. Not because you are threatening, but because you are independent from their expectations. You no longer fit into the role they assigned you. The version of you they understood has disappeared, replaced by someone more grounded, more focused, more self-aware. You walk differently now, not with arrogance, but with clarity. There's a quiet confidence that comes from knowing how much you've overcome. You don't need to prove your strength, because you've already lived through the process that built it. Every challenge you survived added another layer of resilience they never saw. That's why this moment feels so powerful. You're not louder. You're not trying harder. You're simply aligned with yourself. And alignment changes how people respond to you. Some will suddenly offer respect where there was once indifference. Others may become distant, unsure how to approach you anymore. A few might even feel intimidated without fully understanding why. But here's the truth. Their reaction says more about their perception than about you. When someone realizes they misjudged another person, it creates a quiet tension. They begin questioning their instincts, their confidence, even their past behavior. That internal discomfort often shows up as nervous energy, hesitation, overthinking, or unexpected politeness. You don't need to chase those reactions or analyze them too deeply. Just observe, because observation has always been one of your greatest strengths. You learned long ago that reacting emotionally to every opinion drains energy. Instead, you learned to pause, to watch, to understand before speaking. And that habit now gives you an advantage many people never develop. While others rush to regain control of how they see you, you remain steady. There is immense power in steadiness. Think about it. Storms make noise, but mountains remain silent. And people instinctively recognize stability when they encounter it. They may not be able to explain it, but they feel it. That's what's happening now. Your presence communicates something words cannot. Certainty. Not certainty about being better than others, but certainty about who you are and where you're going. And certainty removes the need for approval. You're no longer shrinking to make others comfortable. You're no longer explaining your ambitions to people who never intended to understand them. You've stepped into a space where your actions speak louder than explanations ever could. Ironically, this is when people start paying attention the most. They notice the consistency, the discipline, the calm reactions where emotional responses once existed. They begin connecting the dots and realizing that what they called luck was actually effort. What they labeled quietness was focus, and what they dismissed as simplicity was depth. That realization changes how they treat you. But here's the important part. You don't need to change how you treat yourself. Stay grounded. Stay patient. Growth isn't about proving others wrong. It's about becoming fully aligned with your own purpose. The respect you receive now is simply a reflection of the respect you started giving yourself long ago. And as this new dynamic settles in, you may notice something else. The pressure to perform disappears. You're not trying to impress anymore. You're simply expressing who you've become. That freedom is powerful. Because when you stop performing for acceptance, your energy becomes authentic. Your decisions become clearer. Your path becomes quieter but stronger. People sense that authenticity immediately. Some are inspired by it. Others feel unsettled because it reminds them of changes they've avoided in their own lives. Either way, the shift has already happened. You crossed an invisible line from being underestimated to being recognized, from being overlooked to being observed, from being doubted to being respected, even if silently. And the most remarkable part, you didn't force any of it. You simply kept moving forward while no one was watching. Now they're watching, and they're realizing that the person they once overlooked was never small, only patient enough to grow without needing applause. This is the stage where true confidence deepens. Not loud, not dramatic, just steady and undeniable. And the room feels different because of it. At this stage, something even deeper begins to happen. The shift is no longer only about how others see you. It's about how you see yourself. And that internal change is far more powerful than any outside recognition. Because once you realize your own strength, you stop waiting for permission. You move differently. You think differently. Decisions that once felt heavy now feel clear. The doubts that used to slow you down lose their grip, not because life suddenly became easy, but because you finally trust your ability to handle whatever comes next. And people notice that trust. There's a certain calm that appears when someone stops questioning their worth. It shows in the way you speak, measured, intentional. It shows in the way you listen, fully present, not desperate to be heard. Even your silence carries meaning now. Others may not understand why, but they feel the difference instantly. Before, they interacted with the version of you that was still searching. Now they're facing someone who has already found direction. That contrast creates tension, especially for those who were comfortable with the old dynamic. They were used to leading conversations, setting expectations, defining roles. But now those invisible roles no longer exist. You are no longer reacting to the room reacts to you. Not because you demand control, but because you carry clarity. And clarity changes power without needing confrontation. You begin to notice small details. People hesitate before interrupting you. They listen longer. They consider your opinions more carefully. Even disagreements feel different, less dismissive, more respectful. It's not magic, it's presence. Presence comes from self-awareness, from understanding your values, your boundaries, and your direction, so clearly that external opinions lose the ability to shake you. This is where many people make a mistake, though. When recognition finally arrives, the temptation is to prove something, to show everyone how wrong they were. But real growth doesn't need revenge. The strongest position is calm progress. You don't need to embarrass anyone. You don't need dramatic victories. Time has already revealed the truth more effectively than arguments ever could. And ironically, restraint makes your strength even more visible. When you choose patience instead of reaction, people sense discipline. When you choose focus instead of ego, people sense maturity. When you choose silence instead of unnecessary explanation, people sense confidence. These choices reshape how others experience you. Some will grow curious. They'll try to understand your mindset, asking questions they never asked before. Others may keep their distance, unsure how to relate to the version of you that no longer fits their expectations. That's okay. Growth naturally changes relationships. Not everyone connects with the person you become, and that doesn't mean anyone is wrong. It simply means evolution has taken place. You are no longer trying to belong everywhere. You are choosing where you truly belong. And that choice is powerful, because when you stop chasing acceptance, you gain freedom, freedom to focus, freedom to create, freedom to move toward goals without constantly looking over your shoulder for approval. Notice how peaceful that feels. The energy you once spent worrying about opinions now fuels progress. The mental space once filled with self-doubt becomes space for strategy, creativity, and vision. You start thinking long-term. You recognize that success isn't one dramatic moment, but a series of quiet decisions made consistently over time. Every step forward becomes intentional. Every action aligns with a larger purpose, and the people around you sense this direction. Even if they cannot describe it, they feel that you are moving somewhere, steadily, confidently, and uncertainty about your limits makes them cautious. Not fearful in a negative way, but aware that you are no longer predictable. Predictability comforts people. Growth disrupts that comfort. But disruption is often necessary for transformation. You didn't become stronger by staying comfortable. You became stronger by facing uncertainty, learning from mistakes, and continuing anyway. Those experiences built an inner stability that cannot be easily shaken. That stability is now your foundation. So, instead of reacting to every situation emotionally, you respond thoughtfully. Instead of rushing decisions, you observe patterns. Instead of competing for attention, you focus on meaningful progress. And this quiet focus creates momentum. Momentum that others begin to notice. They may not say it directly, but they recognize that you are moving ahead, not loudly, not aggressively, just consistently. And consistency is one of the most intimidating forms of strength because it cannot be easily stopped. You are no longer defined by how others once saw you. You are defined by your actions now. And with every step, your confidence becomes less about proving something and more about living authentically. You realize that the real victory was never changing their minds. It was changing your relationship with yourself. You trust your instincts. You respect your time. You protect your energy. That combination creates a presence people instinctively respect. So as the world around you adjusts to this new reality, remember something important: you don't have to rush the process. Let understanding grow naturally. Let respect develop quietly. Continue moving forward with intention, because the strongest transformation isn't loud or dramatic. It's steady, grounded, and undeniable. And now, whether they fully understand it or not, people can feel that you are no longer the person they once underestimated. You've stepped into your own space, and you're just getting started. Now comes the most important phase, the moment when everything settles into clarity. The reactions around you may still shift. Some people will continue adjusting to the new version of you. Others will slowly accept what has become obvious: you were never small, never incapable, never limited in the ways they once believed. But by this point, something remarkable has happened. Their realization is no longer the main story. Yours is, because the real transformation was never about making others nervous or surprising the world. It was about discovering a level of self-respect that no outside opinion can control. And once that foundation forms, life begins to feel different, calmer, clearer, more intentional. You stop measuring progress through comparison. You stop replaying old misunderstandings. You stop carrying the weight of needing recognition. Instead, you move with purpose. There is a quiet confidence that comes when you understand your journey. You recognize how far you've come, the patience it required, the discipline it demanded, the resilience built during moments when no one was cheering for you. Those unseen moments were the real turning points, late nights of reflection, silent decisions to keep going, choosing growth when quitting would have been easier. Each of those choices shaped the person standing here now, steady, aware, and fully present. And presence changes everything. You begin to notice opportunities more clearly because your mind is no longer crowded with doubt. You listen more deeply because you're not trying to defend your worth. You act more decisively because fear no longer dictates your direction. People sense this stability immediately. Some will feel inspired by it. They'll see your journey as proof that quiet perseverance works. Others may feel uncertain, not because you've changed against them, but because your growth reminds them of possibilities they haven't yet pursued. That's a natural part of evolution. Not everyone walks at the same pace, and growth often creates distance before it creates understanding. But you no longer feel the need to slow yourself down to maintain old expectations. You've learned an important truth. Authenticity attracts the right connections naturally. When you stand firmly in who you are, the right opportunities align without force. Conversations become more meaningful. Goals feel more achievable. Even challenges begin to look different, less like obstacles and more like steps forward. And here's the deeper realization. Power doesn't come from dominating a room. It comes from being completely at ease within yourself. You don't need to raise your voice to be heard. You don't need to prove superiority to feel strong. Your presence alone communicates enough because it is grounded in experience rather than ego. Think about how far you've come from the days when doubt felt louder than belief. Back then, you may have wondered whether your efforts would ever matter, whether anyone would truly see your potential. Now you understand something greater. Being seen by others is temporary. Seeing yourself clearly is permanent. That clarity becomes your compass. It guides your choices, protects your energy, and keeps you focused on what truly matters. You become less reactive to distractions and more committed to long-term growth. Small victories feel meaningful because they align with your purpose, not because they impress anyone else. And slowly, the world adjusts to your rhythm. The same spaces that once overlooked you now recognize your value. The same voices that doubted now listen. Not because you demanded attention, but because consistency made your progress undeniable. This is the quiet reward of patience. You didn't rush the process. You didn't abandon your path when results were invisible. You trusted the journey even when recognition was absent, and that trust built strength that cannot be taken away. So what happens next? You keep moving forward, not with urgency, but with intention. Not chasing validation, but creating meaning. Each step becomes an expression of who you truly are rather than a reaction to how others perceive you. And that freedom is powerful, because when you live from authenticity, fear loses its control. Mistakes become lessons instead of failures. Challenges become opportunities instead of threats. Growth becomes a continuous process rather than a single destination. The nervous energy others once felt fades over time, replaced by respect, sometimes spoken, often silent. But by then, you no longer need to notice it. You're focused on building, learning, evolving. You understand that the greatest victory isn't changing people's opinions. It's becoming someone who no longer depends on them. So take a moment now. Breathe deeply. Feel the calm strength you've built within yourself. That quiet space you feel, that clarity, that steadiness belongs to you. You earned it through patience. You strengthened it through resilience. You protected it by staying true to yourself. And as you step forward from here, remember this: you don't have to prove your worth anymore. You don't have to explain your journey. You simply have to continue being real, consistent, and bold enough to live as your authentic self, because the truth has already revealed itself. They see you now, but more importantly, you finally see yourself. Thank you for being here, for reflecting, and for growing through this message. Keep moving forward with courage. Stay grounded in who you are and carry this quiet strength into everything you do. Stay bold, your story is only just beginning.